sacrifice, hard work, determination, transformation. And that is just the beginning. Join Dr. Steve Whiteside on Coffee Between Two Immigrants, journeying into the story on what it means to be an immigrant and showing the world you can make an impact. These are the Brood Stories.
Okay, Nick, thanks a lot for being here. And I appreciate it. You're only my second guest on this podcast.
Thank you.
So
it's a pleasure.
I really appreciate you doing it. And actually, you gave me a little bit of motivation when I told you I wanted to do this, and you liked the idea. And you're so involved in immigration, and you're so involved in immigrants' life. So I'm not only happy to have you here, but I'm really honored to have you here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
So the first thing I'd like you to do maybe is just tell us a little bit about your life before you decided to immigrate, when you were in
Yeah. Born and brought up in Bombay. They changed the name when I wasn't looking, but I still call it Bombay. Grew up we had the 5% life in Bombay. My father worked for an American pharmaceutical company, so we had great life, servants and the drivers, and chauffeur-driven car, club membership, and an extremely good educational background. So we went to one of the finest schools in the country, colleges, the work. So it was a very different life. And then my father passed away very young. He was 52. He died 52. I was 25 years old at that time. So very young for someone to lose your father, your anchor, right? But I had gotten into advertising, and I was the second generation. My father was in advertising, and I got into advertising and marketing. And I don't know, maybe it's a genetic thing that you pass on, but I excelled at what I did. I was working in ad agencies, and that work took me from Bombay. It took me to Muscat, to Abu Dhabi, and to Dubai.
Okay.
And so that's the journey. And
how old were you then when you started traveling to Dubai? And
in my 30s.
Okay.
In my 30s, I am a serial immigrant.
Okay.
So Canada's the fourth country I'm living in.
Oh wow. Okay.
And statistically, someone who's got more than two countries under their belt has a higher degree of positive outcomes because you've done this before.
Okay. Interesting. It would make sense.
It is very tough, and the Middle East was very hard because you had to learn a lot of the cultural nuances as well. Mm-hmm. Religious and cultural nuances. So
I've been 3 countries too, So it's Israel and Canada.
Yes,
so
what I'm talking about.
I kind of know what you mean by the Middle East being much different than it used to be.
Then eventually I started, and I owned the largest call center in the Middle East.
Really?
I had clients like Citibank and Howard Johnson and Renaissance Hotels. And
was this in Dubai?
In Dubai.
Okay.
And so then what happened was my sister was the first of the 4 of us. So she landed in the US, she was in New York, she spent all her years in New York. And then the youngest one went off to LA, and I think strategically they were right in keeping that space between the 2 of them, one in New York and one in LA, so it's a little peace and quiet. And so then the other brother who was with me in the Middle East, with me in the sense that we were there at the same time, he wasn't living with me, and he decided to move to Canada. So what are we going to Canada for? So he said, this is what we've decided, blah, 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 blah. And so he went off. I said, okay, bye.
Did he move to Canada to start a business or just?
No, just to start a new life. For a better life for the kids. That time, that was the main one, right?
You were working in Abu Dhabi at the time, in Dubai.
In Dubai.
Now, in Dubai, you can live there, you can make a lot of money in Dubai, but you're never truly a citizen in Dubai, right?
You're not.
You're always different from what I understand.
You're a temporary worker.
Yeah, no matter how rich you are. Yeah.
But that has changed in the last 10 years. You can now get residency. There's certain stipulations, of course, but it's for the riches.
Yeah.
So then he went off he came to Vancouver, and then he started talking to my wife and saying, all of us are here, we should be here, etc. I said, I've got my own life, I'm doing fine. Anyway, so he said, why don't you just apply for the papers? My wife said, our daughter had to go into college, and college in those days in Dubai were pitiful. They had to go to India to do their education. So that's the time when I said, okay, let's just put in the papers. So I filled out the papers. I said, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And I was so convinced it's not going to happen, Steve. I remember this was 1998. December 31st. I'm leaving my office and there's a call, so-and-so law office. And I said, what the heck is that? What happened now? I said, should I take it? So he says, hi, I'm calling from the law office. And I'm calling to let you know your visa has come. I said, for what? Which place? I was completely blank. After submitting the paperwork, I had erased it completely.
Okay. Just didn't think it was going to happen for some reason.
I was so convinced it was not going to happen.
Was it hard? It
was very hard.
Okay.
And they'd call you for all these interviews. You had to fly from Dubai to London and or to some other forsaken place for an interview. And they just decided for some odd reason that they're going to give it to me. And so I remember New Year's Eve sitting with my best friend, smoking a cigar in the car and saying, what the heck am I going to do, man? I got the visa. So he says, you go, I'm coming, I'll follow you. Okay, this doesn't help really. Then we came here in April of 1998.
98, okay.
It didn't rain a single day. Not a single day. Everyone was so fabulous. You'd ask someone for directions, they'd get off the bike and they'd go in the opposite direction to show you where to go. This is heaven.
These Canadians are nice people.
Absolutely. We're known for that.
We are known for that, but you didn't know it back then.
I didn't know it that.
It wasn't like that in other places you lived in.
And then I drive around and I see the place. It's such a gorgeous city. And I said, maybe there's something here. My wife said, we've got to take a decision. I said, what am I going to do there? And I said to her, what am I going to do? I don't know anything that I can do here. She said, you'll figure it out. So I said, I will end up selling toilet brushes door to door or being a used car salesman. Exact words.
Uh-huh.
And she said, I don't think so. And I haven't done that. So it's not been too bad, Steve.
Hey, some of these salespeople can make some money.
They can make some good money. So then I applied for jobs. So what I did was, because of my background in advertising, I went to ad agencies whom I had connected with when I was in Dubai. The same group of ad agencies. And I'm not going to mention the name of the agency, but I'm just going to say that it was the same agency, and I handled the Coca-Cola business for them. And we did the Harlem Globetrotter
So
tour.
you worked for the ad agency here in Vancouver?
No, in the Middle East.
Okay, the Middle East.
And so I came to the same branch, the same affiliate, and said, hey guys, I'm here, I'm looking for a job. They said, great, Nick. I said, so when do I start? Nick, you have no Canadian experience. Boom. First week in Canada. Welcome to Canada.
I've heard that in Canada a million times. Everyone comes here with all the training in the world. Oh, you have no experience in Canada.
And so I spent 27 years fighting that phrase.
And how's the fight going?
I think some days I win.
Yeah, okay.
And days I win are a triumph, because it's not my win, it's someone else's win. It's keeping that person's dream alive.
That's true. Before we get to that, I want to know, what did you do for work then?
So I started looking for a job, and I got a job with a mom and pop publishing company. And I came in at the ground level, as account manager. Even the office dog was above me. So that's how low I started.
From running one of the largest businesses in Dubai there, right? So you started all over again.
And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I started first year. My package was $25,000 base and a commission. That year I did, my T4 showed $52,000.
Okay. Which isn't an overwhelming amount of money back in 1998.
No.
You could live off of it.
But what happened was, so I moved from advertising into publishing.
Okay.
So my plan B was publishing, because I was the person who, I had rows of people from different publications coming and selling me ad space. So I knew the business.
Right.
And I sat there the first day, and I listened to the person who was my director of sales, and I'd listen to her sell. 20 minutes listening to her was enough for me. I knew exactly what I had to do.
Okay.
My first day I made a sale, I think it was about $5,000 sale. And my boss came to me and gave me a $50 note. He said, there you go. I've never had that happen. You must be someone special.
Wow.
The second year, so the first year, that's what I did. Second year, I was sitting in the office, and then my boss, the director of sales, didn't come in. And so I said, what's happening? It's okay. Can you put on your jacket? Can you put on my jacket? I need to take a photograph. You're the director of sales and marketing. Congratulations. Okay.
Second year. That's great.
So I said, okay, how much more do I get? He said, nothing. I said, okay. I said, 2 points more. He says, done. So, second year, I did $78,000, of which again 25 was the base. And then he said, I think we got to stop giving you the base. I said, sure, 4% more. He said, okay. And we did 4% more. That year, I did $145,000.
Isn't commission wonderful?
I love it.
I love it too. That's how I started my job here. I'll tell you this story sometime, but that's great. I love commission.
So, all was going well. Now, this was a travel trade publication. I come to the office, and from 8 o'clock in the morning till noon, no one is allowed inside except Morgan the dog. Because I'd be on the phone grinding away, and then afterwards I'd put my feet up and I'd do all the homework, fill out the forms, all the paper stuff.
Paperwork, yeah.
Great one. I was on track that year to hit 200K. And 9/11 happened. And my boss and his wife were both out of the office. And I was in the office, and from the morning, I was signing cancellation orders.
Wow.
And in the first day, I filled out cancellation forms that cost me $100,000 immediately.
So people really reacted to that,
Yeah.
well, on that very day.
Yeah. And I don't know if you were here at that time, because then you had, in 9/11, we had Canada 3000 closed down. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I lived here. I immigrated to Canada in '89.
Okay, so so you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I remember getting up out of bed and watching it on TV. I couldn't go to work that day. I was just being American. I was just transfixed.
Yeah.
I was upset. I had tears in my eyes, and I was just watching the whole day. I couldn't get out of bed.
It was a nightmare. But
Yeah.
what happened was, after 3 years, so this is after 3 years in Canada, I got to a scenario where I said, I can't live here. I can't work in this company. I have to look for another job. I looked for another job, and then that's another story.
Why couldn't you work there?
Because it was on a commission-only basis. And I could not afford to, I cannot.
Travel just stopped.
It just completely came down to a crawl.
Wow.
A complete crawl. And kudos to them, they pulled on. But when I went and I resigned, Frank's wife, she started crying. She said, I want to close the company. This guy's been the best sales guy we've ever had. So,
Yeah.
anyway, so that was what happened. And then I joined an online company handling online sales and digital sales. And that's the time when I had the idea for a magazine for immigrants. And that's how the Canadian Immigrant magazine was born.
Okay. So that's what gave you the idea.
That's right.
Interesting.
And so a magazine that would speak to immigrants irrespective of their ethnicity, but having the shared vision of being immigrants, having been born somewhere else.
Wow.
And figuring out this country. It's such a powerful emotion.
And that was in 1990?
That was in
20
20 years ago.
Yeah, so 2005.
Yes.
Wow.
And so launched it in the basement of my house 2004, and then in 2007 the Toronto Star bought the magazine from me, and then I launched the national edition, and then I launched the top 25 Canadian Immigrant Awards. And those awards became very big and also helped increase revenue as well as increase circulation. Because everyone who got the awards would share it with their family and their friends and their
Who owned those awards?
Canadian Immigrant magazine. So it's all part of the Toronto Star.
It's all part
right?
of the Toronto Star. Okay.
And then after I did that, I found that I was getting bored. You're doing the same old thing again and again. So I said, let me move. So I moved so I quit. In 2010, I quit my job. The worst time. You remember 2010?
Was that the crash?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a crazy guy. I quit. And my wife, for some odd reason, believes in me. Even after so many years.
That's what a wonderful wife's all about.
So I quit and I started a pre-arrival company. And the pre-arrival company in 10 years became the single largest pre-arrival organization. I called up, by that time I had gotten very connected with the political parties, and I was actually working with the minister. I was an advisor to the federal government on immigration. I was part of the roundtables where they talked about this entire point system that changed in 2013. I was part of that.
Okay.
I showed the minister some areas which he says, how come none of my bureaucrats have told me this? Because they're bureaucrats, they're not immigrants, they're not going to know that.
You lived it. You're sharing your experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and then the pandemic happened, and the pandemic, everything froze.
Can you put your cup on top of?
Is it making a noise?
Yeah, it would probably make some noise into our microphone.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
So during the pandemic, everything stopped. We couldn't even get out of the house.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to LinkedIn and I was listening to people telling their stories on LinkedIn. And I had a LinkedIn audience of 350 people that I knew by accident. I wasn't using LinkedIn. So I put up a post. I said, if you're an immigrant and you lost your job and you want to talk to someone, talk to you. I had to pull that post down in half an hour's time.
Really?
It was like a tsunami, boom.
And why was that?
Because everyone wanted to talk to someone.
At the beginning of the pandemic?
It's the beauty of peer networking. It's someone like me, right? You've been here 10 years before me, but we still connect as immigrants, and that is that bond which will always be there between one immigrant and another.
So true.
I started talking to these people, and what happened was I would talk to them on Zoom calls from 7 in the morning right up to 9 o'clock at night throughout the day, because you're used to working.
Yeah.
And you have suddenly this gap of nothing to
Sitting
do.
at home during COVID. Yeah.
And so I was enjoying myself. I was talking to them and I was giving them hope. I was giving them inspiration. I was inspiring them. I was also at the same time correcting their resume. I was correcting their cover letters. Oh my God, some cover letters I've seen were like a stream of consciousness in writing.
I've seen some of them.
And in this, what happened was in 6 weeks' time, something strange happened. The first person got a job, then the second person got a job, and in 2 months, I had nothing to do. They were all employed. And I sat down and I said, okay, something happened here. And what happened here is what I'm talking about, that bond between an immigrant and another immigrant. It's very powerful. So I said, okay, how can we take this bond and harness this bond? Okay. So I created the Immigrant Networks platform. The idea of Immigrant Networks was, let me match someone who is new to this country. So let's say he's in HR. He doesn't know what HR is like in Canada. How do I match that person with someone who is in HR, is an immigrant, who can share what are the inside secrets that they know? What worked for them to get a job? What were their challenges? How did they overcome them? All of that. And so I said, okay, let me go out and see. So I called up a company. I said, can you build me this software? So they said, okay, they'll build a software. So the software basically matched people on the basis of their occupation. And in the first year, I spent a lot of money on getting people to know about it, but I did a lot of work on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is today my number one source of anything.
Yeah. It's really the trusted business platform for people to meet each other.
It is.
Yeah.
And so in the first year, we matched 4,000 people, Steve.
Wow. That's huge. In the first year.
In the first year. And then I said, let me study this a little more. So I sent out a survey. And the report was fascinating. It showed that they were working. So I said, okay, you're working. Let me find out what worked. So got a little more detailed survey out. And what came back was that 70% of members with 5 or more matches were working in their field.
So if they put the time and energy into meeting people,
Bingo.
they learned a lot. Interesting.
And so subsequently, what happened was that I had these people, these members who went through this program. One of them came back to me, and I'm going to introduce her to you. And let's create something where people who've succeeded in getting a job become part of a group. So I said, yeah, let's call them ambassadors. That's how the ambassador program started, Steve. And today we are in the 3rd year. Our ambassadors, we've got 40 ambassadors from 17 countries and 20 professions.
Wow. That's great.
And these ambassadors are available to anyone who wants to chat with them and get advice from them.
That's powerful.
Very powerful.
And how many people do you have going through your program?
So our numbers on an average, on an annualized basis, are anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 a year.
4,000 to 6,000 people a year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the journey is, doing this for 5 years now. The first year was, again, a lot of the learnings and putting in the whole project together, understanding all the things. We've learned a lot. So I've been able to crystallize the journey that an immigrant goes through in 9 steps.
Okay.
And if the immigrant does all 9 steps in 90 days, they increase their chance of being employed by 90%.
Wow. Okay, so you've got the formula.
I've got the formula.
Okay.
It's the KFC style. Once you've got the formula, you just rinse and repeat. You don't have to change it. You don't have to mess with it.
I find everything is like that anyways, whether it be sales or whether it be building relationships. If you have the formula to do it, it's going to work.
Yeah.
And why people try to reinvent the wheel all the time, I don't know. But the formula is important.
Yeah. So that's what we've been doing. We expanded in many ways. So we expanded because someone came to us and said, hey, we have a government grant and we have to get 400 immigrants employed using the program.
Okay.
So I said, okay. So they said, okay, we'll give you the contract. So they gave us the contract and away we went. And we couldn't do 400 because we did 520.
Okay. And how did it go with those 520?
It was amazing. It was amazing. We knew from day one how it worked. Here's what happened. Let me move 6 months before this event happened. We had a young lady who called up, a mature student who had graduated from, done the MBA program at a university in BC, and called me up to say, I'm frozen because I have my second interview with a significant organization here. So I said, okay, and what's the problem? I'm frozen. I said, I'm looking at your resume, you're fine. I don't think I can do it. Okay. I said, all right, give me 5 minutes. So in 5 minutes, I got hold of 4 of my ambassadors. And she was trained by all 4 plus me, total of 8 hours of training. Okay, at the end of it all, I had the last word and I said, here's what I'm going to say to you, do not take the first offer. She said, what do you mean the first offer? I just want one offer.
She's going to jump on it, huh?
I said, no, do not do that. You promised me you're not going to take the first offer. And sure enough, at the end of 2 weeks, 3 job offers, $90,000, first job straight out of college, out of university.
Wow, that's great.
And so I said, interesting. Then I had another guy come to us. This guy started watching us on, so every Wednesday we have our speed networking. Everyone comes in. Simple. And this guy would log in from India, it's 4:30 in the morning, and he'd log in and he'd sit and listen to every single presentation. And he'd have this grin on his face. And I don't like to chuck anyone out. The program is not meant for someone who's outside. But he's such a pleasant chap, I said, let him leave, it's okay. And so after 3 months, the guy said, "Hey guys, I'm landing next week." So he landed in Kitchener. He had 17 meetings already set for himself.
Wow.
Okay. He came here, 17 meetings. He started meeting them. In 6 weeks' time, he was employed. $120,000. Calls me after 2 weeks. "Nick, I have a problem." I said, "You just got a job, man. What is your problem?" He says, "There's an American company that's offering me $200,000. I said, "Go." But so what came to my mind was that somehow, without our really knowing it, is that we've created not just the networking, but we've created from the networking, we've created a coaching entity. That entity is actually helping people get jobs. And so I did a quick study. I've been very involved in the immigration space, and I kept track. And I had seen for a while a lot of scammers out there on Instagram who charge anywhere from $2,000 to $7,000 for, and they're immigrants who are cheating immigrants.
Yeah, that's sad. Yeah.
And so I said, this is a chance to make that impact. So how can I do something which has got huge impact? At the same time, it turns into a social impact project. And that's how the second phase started in July. And so we did a test market, and we launched a program which gave our members, apart from the networking, it gave them access to 12 sessions a month of 90 minutes each, live sessions. And all of that for $199 a year.
Really? You not this monthly reoccurring fee all the time?
I am not doing that.
Wow,
and
that's great.
And you could pay $20 a month if you want. No problem.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I want to break that cartel that's charging $2,000, $10,000. I want to break that.
That's great.
So what my business model is, I work with companies, I work with organizations, and that goes towards fueling the number of people who get these jobs. That's basically it.
Interesting. Yeah.
So someone asked me, "Can you tell me in one line, what is it you do?" I said, "Sure. 3 words. I polish diamonds."
Yeah. You take rough ones and you turn them into shining, beautiful, successful diamonds.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's great. Yeah. And I know you do, because you have quite a reputation. I even spoke to my organization here at UFC, and they said, "Oh, we know Nick. He's been doing this for a while. He's got a really good reputation." Before we even had a chance to meet each other very much, I already heard some pretty wonderful things about you.
Yeah.
And I think you've been doing it for a while. And one way or another, not necessarily as a business, but just as a philanthropic kind of a way to help people.
Social impact is very important to me. And I actually went and did a course at Harvard on social impact.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like effecting change in people.
Let me ask you this, because I've heard you in India and how you had a pretty nice life in India, far better than my childhood. Then you picked up some great skills from your family, from your father, it sounds, before you lost them.
Yeah.
Started your own business, moved to Dubai, did quite well in Dubai.
Yeah.
Built a big business, worked for some leading ad agencies.
Yeah.
By the way, they don't just hire anyone, so you really have to know your stuff.
Yeah.
You immigrated to Canada with nothing, but started some businesses, got a sales job, did very well, and then opened up your own businesses, did even better.
Yeah.
Now you're doing social impact, you're helping immigrants.
Yeah.
Have you had a tough time at all? Have you had any challenges?
Heaven. Steve, you're an entrepreneur. You've
Yes.
been an entrepreneur. No one but you knows when you're on the edge of that cliff and you keep balancing your hands to try and stop falling over. Only you and the wife know.
That's for sure.
And how that credit card and the line of credit is bent out of shape, and how those sleepless nights. No one will understand that, but that peer thing, right? So yes, I've had that, but it's nothing new. It's nothing intolerable. I believe every time I've been in a situation where I think it's going to be lights out, And I don't want to sound religious over here. I'm not a very religious person. But every time I come to a scenario where it seems bleak and dreary and really this is it, and it's going to be lights out, and something happens, and I believe it's the good karma that I earn out of helping the thousands of me.
I think it's also something about your personality. There's something that I know about entrepreneurs. I think I've been blessed with it. A lot of my friends who are entrepreneurs is no matter how bad things get,
Yeah.
we always seem to say there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
We don't even know how we're going to meet payroll in 2 days or in 3 days.
Oh.
And we just look for the light. But when you're looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, you find something, you find an answer.
No one will know because you and I both are experts. All entrepreneurs are experts at putting on a mask. That mask is a big grin.
Yes, yeah.
And it's the belief. It's the belief in what you do. And I'm so convinced with what I do. Steve, I'll tell you, in this journey in the last 4 years, I met the most amazing people, and I've been very blessed with meeting the most amazing people. And I've met the opposite of amazing people, and I don't want to describe what that would sound
Unfortunately,
like.
we all have done that too.
And there are people who want to steal from you. And okay, go ahead. And very soon they find it's not just the fact that you're younger and you can try and do something. It's also the fact that I put in years into this, and when
You're not going to take it from me so easy.
absolutely, I'm not walking off.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm very excited about Immigrant Networks. In fact, I've actually had a conversation just yesterday with an organization that said, we feel you're limiting in yourself by being only in Canada. We want to see how you can spread into the US and Australia. We, by the way, are still privately held. We bootstrapped ourselves. We haven't taken any outside, we've not taken any funding outside because you have to be very careful dealing with immigrants, because if someone puts in money and they have control of the company, they also have control over what you do. And I'm not sure that they have the same kind of ethics that I've adhered to in my business.
The value we know as entrepreneurs too, the values and the ethics and the culture that you build within the company is the company.
It is.
It's why I've seen so many people sell successful companies, and I see them flop within a year or two. The company's still there, the business is still there, the clients are still there, but the culture, the values, the way you make the staff and the customers feel is different. And there's no doubt.
It is a challenge. And we went through the downturn that started last year. Impacted every small business. I'm not inured by any chance. I think we just have to go on from day to day. We do a lot of contract work. I've never underpaid anyone, because and most of my employees are immigrants themselves, because they know if you're an immigrant, what is the kind of blog to write? If you're an immigrant, what's the kind of social media to do? Right? But and so I'm proud of the fact that I have paid them top dollar more than what the other companies would pay them.
But you also have some very loyal people that work for you.
Very loyal.
That's great. I always try to do that. I think sometimes because I own colleges, it's not a real profitable place to be.
No.
Everyone thinks, oh, education, maybe if you have 40 schools. I had 5 at a time. But I always treated the people I worked with respect, and they were part of my family, and that helped people be very loyal too. I didn't do it for that reason, but I found that when I had tough times, I had people to stand right next to me. They didn't leave me, they didn't take off, but they stood with me.
And when I hire, I tell them that I guarantee one thing. And the number one is, when you leave and you go to the next company, you will have learned so much.
Yeah.
You can actually write your own check. Today, as we speak, one of my key employees has joined another company, and I said, I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of the way you blossomed from when you came in and understood here in Canada.
Oh, they're almost like you feel proud of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I lost many staff members because we were a little college.
Yeah.
We had little colleges, and we just couldn't pay as much as the big colleges.
Yeah.
And so there's one college in this city especially who took a lot of my employees, a lot of my admission staff.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind because it was something better for them. It was
Oh,
something bigger for them. They were going to grow.
Absolutely.
And they did what they needed to do. And I looked at it like, hey, we all have to move on sometime and do something new.
And there are two things I do, even today in my business. And we call it a business, call it a social enterprise, whatever you want to call it. I call it social impact. Is even my clients, I'm very picky about who I work with, Steve. I have turned down business if I don't believe that they're the right fit for us.
Mm-hmm.
I also do share with my clients what is it that we are actually doing, not just as a business. Business is emails and marketing and all of that stuff, but what is it we're changing people's lives? I had an immigrant who turned on. She came to our call after 3 weeks and she said, I got a job, and she cried on the Zoom call. And she said, I've never heard of something like this where because I wasn't feeling well, people called up, they came to my house. This is the network that you built. Think of what this does for Canada, Steve. So and I'm gonna put on a political hat for a minute. The sad thing is that the government of Canada does not know how to handle the immigrants and has not been handling it well for a decade.
Oh, they let the private companies do that.
I told you. So the reports show of all the different areas that the government spends billions of dollars on, take a guess how much they spend on helping you to get a job. Just that one area, how much do you think that they should spend on that?
I have no idea.
Take a guess. Come on, you know how government.
Are you talking about EI money?
No, I'm talking about for a
new
newcomer.
people. Oh, I don't even know if they have much of a program. I know they have an English program called Link, but I don't know if they have. Do they have employment?
9%.
9%?
Of their entire budget goes.
What?
Steve, 9% of their entire budget goes for helping them get jobs.
That's a lot of money.
You know how much goes for English language? 42%.
Oh. Or what are you, 9% of what are you talking about?
So there's an entire budget for settlement.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the budget of the country. Oh, for settlement.
Out of the
so
budget
9%
that the government
goes to, so it is a small amount compared
It is
to
the
other areas
smallest
of
amount.
settlement.
It is a pitiful amount. And they will spend 32%, I think that's the number, in telling you how to find housing and how to get a credit rating. And I'm thinking to myself, you do know that we have smartphones, right? I'm an immigrant, I'm not an idiot. I know how to look and I know how to find that information.
Yeah.
The same government actually released numbers saying that 92% of newcomers have smartphones. Now you tell me, why would I still spend that much money on this? There is no settlement without a job, Steve.
Right. That's for sure. And I've seen immigrants have to leave the country after they've spent their life savings coming here because they may have had a hard time getting a job or they didn't find one in time. I want to sell something for you for a second because I hear you talking about networking over and over again.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, I've had a lot of conversations with people throughout the years. I think networking is one of the strongest, most successful things we can do in our life.
Yes.
I met one of your friends through a networking organization,
Yes.
Praveen.
Yes.
We met through EO.
Yes.
I find that people who have networking organizations that have something in common with them.
Yeah.
So EO is called Entrepreneur Organization.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, there's not a better place to meet,
Yeah.
to find a friend,
Yeah.
to learn, to grow.
Absolutely.
There's President's Association.
Yes.
This is where presidents come together.
Yep.
There is all kinds of associations. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of organizations. But yet I never thought about an immigrant network. And so as I know how important networking is, you've created something
Yeah.
that must be a monster because there's so many immigrants in this country. And it makes so much sense to me as someone who I was an EO for 13 years.
Yeah.
I've been a part of networks before. But why haven't we ever had an immigrant network?
Well, why haven't we ever had a magazine for immigrants? I continue to do things that are unique, somewhat like Don Quixote. But at the same time, I like thinking differently. So when I started Immigrant Networks, it was the pandemic. You could not get out of the house. There was only one way to network, and that is digital. But I soon found there's something else. That digital allows people, specifically women, to access networking because they've had bad experiences in person.
Right, it makes it safe.
It's a safe
Space.
You're in your home, it's safe for you.
I never thought of that.
55 to 60% of my members are women. I often get an email from someone saying, can I get my husband to join this? I never get it from a husband saying, can I get my wife to join it?
Interesting.
It's a very interesting thing. But so our company line is networking to get working. It's very simple.
That's amazing.
We teach people, so when you come from another country, Steve, you do not know how to network. Because in my country, I'm from India, network was you talk to all the uncles and their friends, and then they would connect you with someone.
That one person has a connection and gets
Correct.
you the job.
Correct.
It's not like that here.
That's, yeah. And so here it's very different.
Yes.
So our first part of your 9-step program is understanding networking. There's an ebook that I've written, understanding how networking works. Because it's not enough to turn around and send you a message saying, hi Steve on LinkedIn. Hi Steve, can you help me get a job? Can you refer me to someone for a job? These are the standard ones that actually, it falls like a squib.
Of course, it's almost like worse than doing nothing because it's got to give a. Don't most of these networking things have to be a give and take?
No one understands that. Because if you've never done that kind of thing, so either you'll be a wallflower, or you'll make a snafu. And that's the bottom line. So we have to first teach them the nuances.
Smart.
So we teach them how to network. I have an entire course on LinkedIn, and that course, the first part of it is top 10 mistakes newcomers make on LinkedIn. So I talk
You
about
have to
the
be
mistakes.
a member of your network to get that course?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How do people find you on LinkedIn?
I'm always there. So I'll tell you about my LinkedIn. I mentioned that I had 350 people. So I do an end of year analysis. So the end of the year, I have a total of 35 to 38,000 contacts on my LinkedIn. Now, you can't have that many direct contacts, so you have followers, but I also have 2 separate pages. So apart from the Noorani page, I have networking to get working, where immigrants put in their profile and they get actually picked up by companies who know about this profile, right? And then you've got platform. That has got 10,000 people in that. So on an average, only on LinkedIn, I have over 3,000 views of my articles, my comments, my posts. I run newsletters on my LinkedIn profiles. I put videos, I do a lot of stuff. And so that's how LinkedIn is important.
When someone follows you, is there a different interaction than when someone is actually connected to you?
This is again part of the learnings that I teach people.
I could probably take a class on LinkedIn because I'm confused about it.
LinkedIn is constructed in such a way you can have a maximum of 35,000 people.
Okay.
I can go up to 100,000 people because then people move into following me. And so I look at people and I tell them, when you connect with someone, this is the typical millennium and Gen Z habit. They'll sit on the phone and they'll go click, and they can follow me, and I'm not going to talk to them. Unless you send me a message introducing me, I'm not going to interact with you. And they say, I did connect with you. I said, yeah. So if you're walking around the store and someone slips a business card in your pocket, that's what you're doing by doing this. You're slipping a business card in your pocket. Gee, thanks a lot, but maybe at that. That's not the best way of approaching a connection.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we teach them how to nurture relationships. So I had this young lady from Hong Kong who came in, and she actually won the 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. 2024 Networker of the Year award just this last Wednesday. She didn't have anything on her LinkedIn profile, but she attended my one course on the 4th of June. And she took to it like a duck takes to water. She showed me the graph of her views and her all of that. But what happened the most important thing was that this was in June, and in August, a company in the US saw her posts, hired her. Networking is a great way for you to become visible to your potential target audience. So if I want to talk to colleges, for example, how do I start connecting with them? If I want a job in a college or university, how do I connect with people? So then we start creating a matrix. There's a matrix. And the matrix starts from day one. What is it you're going to do on day one? And it goes on for a 90-day program. At the end of your 90 days, you have core people around you from your industry supporting you. So there's a strategy in everything, Steve. It's not just flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, interesting. And again, this is your formula.
It's the formula.
Okay. Interesting.
So I spent a lot of time learning LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I had to learn it before I could teach it.
Sure.
I was doing a calculation. In a career exceeding 50 years-ish, I have been for 12 interviews. Out of the 12 interviews, only one I didn't get the job. I got the job with the other. So I must be doing something right. Two things I tell newcomers. If any newcomers listening to this, please listen to this. This is gold for you. Number one, start off by telling the person who's interviewing you why they should hire you. That's all they want to know.
I agree. That's a great input. Very good.
Why should I hire you? Number one. Number two, ask for the job before you leave. Okay, what's the next steps? When do I start? Every time I've done this, I got the job.
Makes a lot of sense. And it's not a lot different from basic sales in the first place.
It is.
Tell the person what they're going to buy, and then ask them to buy it.
Yeah.
It's just like the
That's
job.
it. That's it.
So many salespeople will sit there and pitch their project, and then they'll never ask for the sale.
Why don't you ask for the sale?
Isn't it amazing? Would you like to buy this? It's a simple question.
Would you like to buy one or two?
Yeah, exactly. Or six.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is what I teach them.
That's great input, yeah.
I teach them this, I teach them the soft skills, I teach them Canadian corporate culture. Corporate culture is very different, coming from different places. You come from India, we have no concept of physical space because we have 1.4 billion people bunched together. So space is non-existent. In Canada, that's very existent.
Yeah, for sure.
So again, there's this other thing that I know, very few people know. A large number of newcomers lose their first job within the 90 days, Steve.
Do they?
And they don't know because if your focus is only on getting the job, and then when you get there, you're taking a deep breath because you just finished running the marathon. No, you have to get confirmed. You need your confirmation, which is your 90 day. Why do they lose their jobs in 90 days? So I got hold of all my ambassadors. I said, let's all have this discussion. And we said, let's break it down into your 30 days, your 60 days, and your 90 days. What is it you need to know? We created an entire journey.
And what is it? Is it because people take their foot off the gas?
It's because they don't understand the nuances. So here's it. That's standard stuff. You're an immigrant, I'm an immigrant. A lot of people get confused between being friends and being friendly.
I agree.
In Canada, people are friendly. They're not friends. So what happens is you think that, oh, this is such a great thing, it's so great, blah, 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 blah. No.
They think they're friends.
They're not your friends.
They're not your friends. They're your work associates who are being friendly.
Yes. This is just one of them. But if you break it down, and I've seen the smartest people lose their jobs. And not at small companies, at large organizations.
And they have no idea why.
They have no idea why. And then they come to me and I'm doing my 30, 60, 90 days and then they send me messages, oh my God, the light bulb just went off.
Why didn't you tell me this 90 days ago?
You weren't ready to listen.
They didn't know about you.
So that becomes, so we now have the journey,
Okay.
the audience journey. So members go through this journey in getting the job. After you got the job, okay, now get into the 30, 60, 90 days. Okay, now talk about, executive presence. Let's talk about executive presence. All of these things which...
That's amazing. There's a lot people can learn from you, Nick. Tell me, how do they get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of your company? I know it, but they don't know it. So why don't you tell us? What's the website?
It's immigrantnetworks.com, and just come in there, register, and we'll connect you.
I'll try to also, when we post this interview, I will put up the website and stuff. But I would highly suggest people get a hold of you. It's not just something you do. It's something that you enjoy. It's part of who you are.
It is. I wake up every morning. So when I wake up every morning, I wake up and the first thing I do is I look at my WhatsApp. Because my day is made when I get a message from someone saying, Nick, thank you very much, I got a job.
You're working. Yeah. It's amazing. We could make money at anything we want to make money.
You could.
We're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So people have often asked me, why do you own schools? It's a tough way to make a living. Or why do you work for schools? But I love to see what happens with people when they learn. I love to see what happens with people when they're educated. It really, really is. In my colleges, I dealt with a lot of socioeconomic challenged people because I worked for, our colleges taught 6-month, 8-month courses. And they would come in, and the way they would go out 6 months later, it was just, it warmed my heart. No paycheck could do. I like both, don't get me wrong, but I just love to see people change.
I have done stuff for my audience that you will not believe. I've taken small groups of them and said, okay, on a Sunday or a Saturday, I'll do this. I'll put them in a Zoom call and I'll open my LinkedIn and I'll say, tell me which company you want to work for. Let me see who I know there. And I'll connect them with that person.
Yeah, it's
And my coach told me you should charge $500 for that. That's not what I'm doing. That's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the issue. We want to help people.
So that's what I do.
That's why you have the reputation you have, Nick.
Yes, and so there are two websites, Immigrant Networks and imnet.ca. imnet.ca.
Okay.
Imnet.ca is the engine which will allow you to do the networking, it'll allow you to do the coaching, all of that on one platform. You can chat with people, you can go there, you can look for people within your profession in the directory. It's all there for you.
That's great. Make sure we give these to Bill. Bill will put these on for us.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, listen, I want to thank you for being here. I could talk to you for another hour, but I thank you for being here, and I thank you for sharing what you're doing. You've had a great life, and you choose to help people. You choose to really work with immigrants, and people don't realize I'm an immigrant. They think, oh, it's so easy. But I came to this country with $608. That's how much I came to this country.
Wow.
Yeah, it says right there on my landed immigrant paper. They don't have this paper anymore, but I had one of those real long IMM 1000s, and it says 608 because they had to count it out right there. And it's not easy for anyone. I don't care if you're from the States or you're from India or you're from Africa. It's tough for everyone when they come here. We all find that it's not what we thought it would be, but it's what we make out of it.
It is. And I have to say this, I changed as a person. Canada changed me. I think Canada made me softer, made me more compassionate, made me think about people, and that's why I've come into this journey. I was a corporate guy in Dubai. It's all about
pretty cutthroat.
The bigger car, bigger house, bigger paycheck, always. But I think that's what it did, and I think what I always think about is what is the legacy that you're leaving behind? Legacy I'm leaving behind will be Immigrant Networks. It won't be Canadian Immigrant Magazine because that was the genesis. Those were the steps that I took in order to do the Immigrant Networks. And Immigrant Networks is the legacy because one day Immigrant Networks will be a global thing.
That's beautiful. That's great. On behalf of all the people you help, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching this episode of Coffee Between Two Immigrants. Be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a conversation.